Hi, kia ora, good morning. I've been up about half an hour. I'm still groggy, so just bear with me. I'm I'm trying to figure out what the hell's just happened over the last 24 hours, over the last few days. As a scientist, I need to understand what happened because something really big just happened. I've just pulled something off with the help of my son, and I don't understand what it was we did. I mean, reverse engineered portal and what I call Archimedes' bow and all. Like, I understand all that part. But after what happened yesterday, something bigger was at play than just putting like an energetic force field over Russia and sending everything they shot at Russia back to the people who fired the shots so that they trapped themselves. I keep thinking of, do you know that bit in Superman where they trapped the three bad guys, Terrence Stamp and all that, where they trapped them into that triangle and flung them into space? It feels like that, but where my boys and I have flung them is into dark matter where nothing exists. And the one thing that the living fear more than anything is non-existence. And watching Trump's thing getting taken down from the Kennedy Center and everything, and all the stuff that kicked off with Zelensky and NATO and with Great Britain on fire, all that sort of stuff, it's like I'm watching everything getting torn down and thrown into non-existence. It's like I'm watching history be erased. It's like I'm watching history in the making be erased to replace history with a new history. And it's not parallel universes, because parallel universes, we only have two universes that sit inside each other, and they pulsate and fluctuate depending on how life, and humanity especially, handle their evolution. We decide the fate of the universe based on our actions. That's in the Quantum Menace Battle of Two Worlds. I explain all that in there. I've got videos where I explain about, how we're in like two universes, a bubble inside a bubble, and it fluctuates and expands or contracts depending on, evolves or devolves depending on the actions of every living thing in the universe. And when we get it wrong, we're in the dark universe, and when we get it right, we're in the light universe, like that sort of thing. And I described it as like when you turn up a stereo and all the little lights go green and yellow and red and orange sort of thing, and they fluctuate and go up and down and up and down like sound waves. It's just like that, but it's like the frequency inside the atoms of the creative universe of creation, the creative consciousness, which is the universe. I understand all that. The dream I had as a little girl coming to fruition, like all of it making, like I understand the nitsy gritty of it, as Pearl would say, but my son and I did something. And because with the Queen Mother dream, that dream, the Hallelujah dream, was all based on the dead coming together to rise up in order to correct history, to stop history repeating itself, to replace the history that, Trump and his Nazi regime were trying to force, because by trying to force history and rewrite history, they wanted to rewrite the Bible, which is the whole Antichrist movement. And it's like, after Odin, I had that dream with Odin, he said, you can just, don't worry about it now, you do what you have to do and we're going to take over from here. And by we, he meant the dead. And it's almost like, and I have to write this into the first sign, my Harry Potter movie, because it reminded me so much of like that scene in Lord of the Rings where all the dead come off the... No, was that Pirates of the Caribbean where the dead come off the ships? But, in that scene in Lord of the Rings where all the dead come out and the ghosts help them fight the bad guys? Just like that. That's what seems to be happening. And I know that I put the casting in place on X a couple of years ago, and it appears that it's actually worked, because I let Queen Elizabeth take the lead. I even said we're going to let Queen Elizabeth take the lead. And I conjured, all sorts of like angels, archangels, deities, Wendigo, like I was naming all sorts of things. I was conjuring them to take on Keir Starmer. Not knowing at the time that Keir Starmer works for Donald Trump. He's Gog, because he's the one that was leading the ships to Iran, right, to clear the Strait of Hormuz. And so Keir Starmer, and because I hear the planes flying over, so trust me when I say Keir Starmer is helping Donald Trump. They can pretend like they're not involved as much as they like, but it's a lie, because the planes leave from just up the road from Marhurst. And that conversation I had with my son about the ethers and the overlords, and it's like we locked something into place that opened up some sort of portal. And I don't believe in other dimensions. Scientists can go on, physicists can go on about alternate realities and other dimensions as much as they like. It's not possible. I don't care what anyone says. It's not possible, because the conscience, our conscience, or just think of, I'm going to say our soul, because your soul is just like the biblical term or the spiritual term for your conscience. Our soul can only live one existence at a time. That's why, in order to traverse time, we have to do it in our sleep. We have to be able to revert back to our conscious state, which is matter recorded in the fabric of the evolution of time since the Big Bang. We have to go back to that in order to be able to go back to who we used to be, and who we're going to be in the future, because time exists all at once in the past, present, and future. But we are physical bodies. And the physical body cannot exist in multiple places at once in the physical, because what it does is it stretches time out too much and it wears down on the body. The only way you can do it is by sleeping or tapping into the God frequency. And as a time jumper, I can promise you now that is physically taxing on the body. It is so physically exhausting on the body. When I first started time jumping, and my boys would be able to, I've even got photos, I've talked many times about that day the boys and I went to the zoo to see the robots and the safari animals. It's documented, I've talked about it all the time. That's when it started happening for me. Sorry, and we used to call it when I was having gravity issues. Because when I first started time jumping, it used to stick me to the ground and I couldn't move from the waist down. and my upper body would be flailing about. I'd be so dizzy, like I was inside the spin cycle of a washing machine, and it was like I was being thrust into different periods in time. And when it started happening for me, my boys were witnesses to it. It was terrifying. I didn't understand what was going on until I obviously figured it all out. But time jumping, when you're not asleep, is physically taxing on the body. It leaves you utterly exhausted and drained, and it took me years. This is why I get pissed off. Well, not pissed off, but like, this is why I laugh at people who pretend to be time jumpers, because it took me maybe 5 years to train my body not to be racked with pain every time I did it, because when I first used to do it, it used to take me at least 2 weeks to physically recover, where I was just exhausted. And I would just have to lay down all the time. My bones would ache, my muscles were killing me, because I felt like while my body was anchored to the ground, my organs were trying to slam up to the roof of the sky. Slam, down, slam, down. It's like my body was desperately wanting to fly off, but my feet were rooted to the ground, but my organs, I could feel my organs, it felt like all my organs were like slamming to the roof of my skull and then smacking back down onto the ground. That's what it felt like, and it was so physically painful. My ribs would be sore. I was exhausted, and I would come out of it just so hungry. I used to be a vegetarian for over 20 years, and I had to start eating meat again because I needed the protein. I needed the protein. And once I started eating meat again, I was dealing with it better, because I was just ravenous. Even now, even still to this day, when I use quantum magnetics, I come out of it starving. And I have to, for as little as what I am now, which is funny to say considering I used to be morbidly obese, like to the point where I was probably a couple of years away from dying. But I'm quite athletic now. I'm quite muscular. I've just got little pockets of skin that need to be tightened up with swimming. But you should see my legs. I love my legs. Like, my legs are a knockout at the moment, because like they're firmed. Like, oh my god. Anyway, so I'm nowhere near the size I used to be. I just bought myself some 3/4 length shorts and that for the summer, in a size 10 to 12. In a stretchy, I can fit a size 10 to 12. So I'm smaller now at 53 than I was when I was 8, 9 years old. Go figure. So you should see the portion size of the meals that I eat at dinner time. I have to. I don't really eat lunch. I do breakfast and I do dinner, but when I have dinner, I eat like a man, because I've been knocking my pan at this for so many months and weeks now that I have to keep my protein levels up. So I had to tailor my diet around my use of quantum magnetics, because of the fact that you would never be able to do what I do as a vegetarian or vegan. It would kill you. It would absolutely kill you. You'd just drop dead. Because physical reality, physical time and the existence of time are not the same thing. And you don't need a physical body to be in the existence of time, which is why the whole alien concept is bullshit. They don't need bodies. So when you see Greys and Pleiadians and, the Aryan aliens and, the blues and all that, it's all a lie, because they don't need bodies. They don't need any of that stuff to communicate with us All you got to do is know where to look, and just like with a radio station, know how to tune in. So this whole thing with alien aircraft and, you know, them coming and walking around and that sort of thing, it's utter bullshit. And so there's me. And there's all these people pretending to be me and putting their stuff up online, and I just look at it and I think, how embarrassing. Because it's taken me years to train to be what I am, and my boys just are it naturally. Because I went first, because it's in my bloodline. And this is what I'm trying to figure out in that song, Hallelujah, and with all the people that I've been dealing with and trying to take in my process, sorry, not trying, I am in the process of taking Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Keir Starmer and Christopher Black and Martin and all of that did to me, and all of them that are targeting Russia and that down. They're all related to each other. They're all people that died in the Holocaust. They're all people that died in Palestine. They're all families and the ancestors of families. And, you know, they're all related to King Charles. They're all the victims of the Lucifer Antichrist bloodlines who were responsible for their deaths. And it's like my son and I, our bloodline, had to come together in that moment in time in order to lock the triangle in place, just like in Superman, to throw them into dark matter where they're going to become non-existent. It's watching him have his name removed from the Kennedy Center is reversing history. It's wiping out history to start again, to recorrect the imbalances created by the Third Reich. And that's why when I was talking in my video this morning about it was like watching when the Americans blew up the swastika off the building, and then reminded me of the dream that I had about the alien Zorb ball. And then when I looked up and saw that it was on the Potomac River, and it was like going back in time. I went back in time to when I was investigating the crashes on the Potomac River, which is what uncovered the truth for me about who Donald Trump really was, and how he was working with Elon Musk to destroy America, to destroy the world, so that they could rule over the ashes with the help of the EU, NATO, Keir Starmer, all the rest of them, the Third Reich. How the universe expands and how fast it expands is all based on everyone's individual actions and choices. Because for all is what people say, time is linear once you make a choice or decision. Because until you make a choice or decision, based on that action will then decide what is sewn into the fabric of the timeline. We all have our own individual fabrics that create a tapestry of who we were since the beginning of our soul, determining conscious existence. The birds are happy because I just put out my offering. And then us as a collective, us as like mass consciousness, then decide how fast and far the universe expands. We all work together, but we all work as individuals. And our soul is like a tapestry. It's like a family tree. It's like the roots that go into the ground in that. Every root, every piece of bark, every branch, every twig, every leaf, everything, every part of that tree is a part of our former self, a part of our extended self, a part of our genetic structure and our genetic memory based on everything our original soul became from the point of creation, from the point of our soul's creation. And that helps create and store memory in the fabric of time, in the existence of time, like the Akashic records, but where each individual story in the book is individual, but a part of the book itself that makes up the library. You know how a library, an infinite library, is full of all those books, but each book is a different timeline, and each chapter in that book is a different life you've lived. And it's all stored in the fabric of time. And the part I don't understand, that I'm trying to figure out after John F. Kennedy got involved, and, you know, I had talked about him and how Britain played a role in his assassination, and then Robert as well being assassinated. It's like, it's not just the victims themselves, but their ancestors and their family bloodlines. And the only way that they could rise, the only way that they could speak, the only way that they could pull off what they're pulling off with Trump and Starmer and the EU and that, was by something my son and I did, who is the heir to my bloodline. He is the heir to my throne and my own empire. He is the heir to the Holy Spirit bloodline, and something him and I did knocked it out of the park, and I'm just trying to figure out what the hell it was that him and I did. But this is why they came after my sons. Because you know how, and I've used this analogy before, I'm talking fast. When I was trying to make these videos this morning, there was just like a cacophony of noise just came out of nowhere. Because usually when I make my videos, I sit on the edge of the bed and I kick my foot, and I there's this little box that I keep beside the bed, and like I'll grab it with my toes, and you know, I'll kick my foot, or like I'll play with the water bottle and spray my sprays, because I have my spray by my bed. And my spritz, the one that I use for perfume and deodorant and air freshener and the all-in-one, it's also like a purification spray. It turns my area into consecrated ground, because, you know, I'm dealing with Lucifer and devils and demons and all that. So I spray my spray a lot. My spray has many uses. And, you know, you hear me playing with the bottle. You've heard me play with the bottle before. You've heard me spritz. You've heard me kick my feet on that box and all that before. But it was exceptionally loud. It's like I was in a vacuum. And the noise was being amplified. And then it all died down. And I'm trying to figure out, from a scientific perspective, what my son and I did. Because my sons, it's taken me 53 years to master what they started mastering when they were 5, 6, and 7. When I learn new skills, they learn it by osmosis. Just like how, like I said, I've used this analogy before, orangutans. Say a 5, 6, 7-year-old orangutan will see someone using a tool, and then they'll have a baby 5 years later, and that baby will be born knowing how to use that tool that the mother watched them use. I call it genetic memory. It's embedded into every cell's atomic frequency to remember everything that it witnesses and experiences. And so with the orangutan watching the person use a tool, its brain remembered it, and then when it had the baby, that memory was stored within inside its cells, that then were passed on to the baby. And that's what's happening to me and my boys. And this is why my teacher said, when you have children, you need to protect them, you need to keep them safe, they need to be guarded. Don't walk with them in public, which is why I used to, they were raised knowing to walk behind me or in front. The only time they would ever walk with me side by side as if when I became single, they became protective of me around men. Because the more I lost weight, the more men I was attracting, and they didn't like it. And also as well, I have a fear of crowds. I don't like being in crowds. It's for no other reason than it's like turning on 1,000 TVs in my head, because then I hear and see what they're thinking and doing, and it becomes very overwhelming. You know, when you're a time jumper, and you can pick up on frequencies like radio stations, and that it becomes very overwhelming, because I'll know things about people that I don't want to know. I'll hear their thoughts, their stresses, their mental illnesses, that sort of thing, and it becomes very overwhelming. And my youngest I used to say he was my emotional support person. He always knew when it was starting to become overwhelming, because he'd come and hold my hand and, walk me through the crowds and stuff like that. Otherwise, they always walked behind me or in front, but never together, because of what my teacher said, because she said, your bloodline has been chosen to play a part in history that is going to make you wanted. People are going to want to be in your life, be a part of your life, have a part of your life, join your life, like take your life. And she said, you've got to protect your children. And she said, and then when you have the baby, don't be the one to push the stroller, have like bodyguards or something. Because she said it's not just that. People are going to be jealous and envious and want to hurt your kids. She said they'll want a piece of your kids as well. So she said they won't even, she said some might try and cut your hair, but some will just rip it out of your head. Some will want to touch you, but they'll want to have a piece of you to remember as well, so they'll rip your clothes and things like that. She said just purely based on who you are and what you're here to do for the world. And now I understand why she said it. Because after what's just happened, especially with the whole grandmother tree incident and the whole watching Donald Trump and Keir Starmer in EU, the conversation I had with my son, like now I get it. Now I get where the warnings came from. I understand it now. Because she said people are going to want to touch you, and they're going to claim that you healed them. And it's not because we're supposed to be the ones to clear the path for the second coming of Christ. Like the three wise men, but the three wise men bloodline or something. But we're the ones who are supposed to secure the path and get all the bad guys that God wrote about in the Bible, Lucifer, Gog and Magog. We're part of God's collective, along with Iran and Russia and all that, to get the bad guys out of the way, so that whoever is going to conceive the new Messiah for Christendom can do so safely in Russia. I do know that whoever his or her parents are, because he does say in the Bible that he's not going to look like he did the last time, they're a married couple in Russia, and Russia has the new Messiah. But the only way that can happen is if all the people trying to stop the new Messiah, the second coming, are removed out of the way. And that's where I come in. And this is why they targeted me as a mother when they came after me, to ruin my reputation and all that, to get me away from my kids, because they thought that if I was separated from my kids, we wouldn't be able to pull off what we were needing to pull off on a biblical level. But we are, because they underestimated the bond between mother and child. My youngest, I haven't spoken to. My youngest is still keeping his distance, and I'm not going to force him. But my eldest came back at the perfect time. And like I said in my video yesterday or this morning, the Night of the Black Sun is all based on my boy and his silent brother and his friends at Pure Water's summer camp having to get from, when we wrote it at the time, Montana or South Dakota, we decided to Ontario to escape the zombie apocalypse, where the mother was going to be meeting them in the helicopter. And then they have this big fight scene, but he's the main character in the movie, my son is. And he said to me, can I please have a fight scene, because like the whole movie involves them having like a fancy dress party where my son got to dress as a samurai, because he said, can you please write me in where I get to use a sword, a samurai sword. And so I said, okay, how about, you having a fancy dress party? And, everything starts kicking off. And then, like, we kind of had like this running joke where he never really had a chance to use his sword, not properly, because he wanted to be able to show off his sword skills and all that sort of thing. And he loves Japanese stuff, and he said, just write me in a bit where I get to have a sword and then I get to use it. So I said, okay, so we'll have you at a fancy dress party where you are dressed as a samurai, and then, you don't take your costume off in the beginning. And then when you've got to leave your dorm room, you take your sword with you in order to be able to get to the security station to get the weapons, so that you can get in the car and, head to Ontario, Thunder Bay. God. Anyway, Ontario, where the mum was going to come down in a helicopter and rescue the kids at the safe house, because she said, you've got to get to the kids. They're locked in a panic room. You got to get to the kids. So he's like, well, can we take guns? And she's like, take whatever you need. Just stick together and blah, blah, blah. So then the whole movie is about the kids going from one place to another, having to go across the border. And we wrote in this whole epic thing that happens in the border tunnels between Michigan and Canada, where like it's just completely epic. And then they have to get to the kids in the safe house, who are locked in a panic room, and wait for mum and, to come in the helicopter. And then, of course, the bad guy turns up, and while mum and the surviving kids get the little kids in that into the rescue helicopter, because it's like a military helicopter, Thomas's character has this big fight scene where he gets to finally use his sword. And then just when he thinks that he's taken the bad guy down, we all get in the helicopter goes to fly away, and the bad guy grabs onto like the leg of the helicopter. And as we're lifting off, and it's kind of weighing the helicopter down, it's like, there's too much weight, blah, blah, blah. My son takes his sword and just slices the man's wrists, and his body falls from his hands, and he falls from a great height and splats on the ground. And then they get to fly off with his hands still holding onto the helicopter, and that's where the movie ends. When they're trapped inside the apartment building, the Quantum Menace, well, no, sorry, not the Quantum Menace, I apologise, Ruby Corazon kicks the door down. Well, she starts trying to kick the door down, and they think it's zombies, and then, she she kicks the door open, and she's standing there all like Tomb Raider style, and she says, your mum sent me to get you, to take you the rest of the way to the safe house. And so they then follow her. So, and I've literally just kind of started watching that happen in real life. And whatever my son did is the equivalent of what happened in that movie, where he took his sword and I'm trying to figure out from a scientific perspective exactly what it is that my son and I did. It's like only him and I could have done it. That story that we wove together created some sort of net, energetic net, that caught them all and is throwing them into dark matter, where they're becoming non-existent, where they're getting erased from history. Because you have to bear in mind, we're dealing with the Illuminati, we're dealing with the cult, who has been writing history for centuries, where they were planning everything that was going to happen to the minute detail to be passed on to the next generation to carry out, weaving the thread of a false narrative. And I've been coming along and unpicking it all, and unpicking the narrative and saying, well, that's a lie, that's fake. They staged that. They wanted people to think that they were this almighty cult who had these supernatural, powerful abilities that's all based on a lie. Just because it was documented in history, because, you have to understand that I do my physics through language and words and, energy and feelings and frequencies and body language and all that. It's complicated because I can't do maths. Quantum magnetics, for some reason, doesn't work in the sciences of maths, because maths, you have to think too much to work out the algorithm, and it pulls you back down into reality and stops you from flowing forward. Energy has to flow forward freely. You can't trap and contain energy when you're dealing with time theory. And maths, putting it into numbers, contains the frequency and holds it down, so energy can't flow. And in order to be able to surf time, it needs to flow. And so time flows freely until you make a choice or decision. And then it becomes linear and becomes the thread that weaves the fabric of time into the tapestry of time. And maths pulls it all out of existence and down into reality in a way that almost puts it in a cement block, and it weighs you down and you can't move because you're trapped with inside numbers. And that's the mistake that Master Tesla made. That 369 algorithm. He made a lot of mistakes because he didn't understand what aliens were. He didn't understand the energy of the planets and the solar, he didn't understand that part of it, because he wasn't indigenous. And you have to be like indigenous to understand the language of the stars. The language of the universe is the gift that indigenous people are born with, because we're the original navigators. We went from Africa and created the whole world based on what the stars said to us, and what, the planets said to us, and the constellations, and, the comets and meteors. We know what they're saying. We understand it. We remember the parts of us that came from original planets and all of that, because the universe, everything in the universe shares the same gases, minerals, frequencies, and metals. We've all got a little bit of everything in all of us, including planets and comets and meteors and all of that, all of it. If it's on the periodic table, it exists in us, it exists in all living life in the entire universe. And he didn't understand it, but I finished his work. And the mistake that the Illuminati made was thinking that in order to control energy, it had to be in the form of a weapon, which is why everything they've created over the last few centuries to weaponize evolution is now what is being used to undo them. And what did I say? The things that were used, the things that they use against us will be the very thing used to bring them down. That's what I said, like in 2017. I've even got a thumbnail of it up on one of my videos. And that's exactly what's happening. And it's almost like all the little nuggets of jumps and downloads that I was getting in the past are all now coming into alignment to pull off the defeat that God talked about in the Bible. And the thing was, at the time that I was figuring all of this stuff out, seeing the golden threads hitting my head and documenting it all at great risk to my life, and then realising that later on, when I found out about Donald Trump's uncle stealing the energy weapon from after they killed Tesla and that, those little golden threads that I was talking about in my blog days and on Twitter back in the day, was me shooting myself in the head with my own energy weapon. But it was waking me up, and it's actually what pulled me out of the situation I was in with my students and that, who were working behind the scenes with Donald Trump and that, in order to bring me down. Not realising that in doing so, it was going to connect them to an international pedophile ring and help be responsible for the deaths of millions of people through COVID, through the Ukraine genocide, through the Palestinian genocide, this war in Iran. They didn't realise that by them joining the cult of Odin, that it was then going to cement their names and their reputations and their families' bloodlines into the course of history that was going to blow the lid open on an international human trafficking, organ harvesting, pedophile ring from the highest echelons of power down to the plebs and sheeple, like Nikki and all of that, from the highest to the lowest. They thought they were just going to get rid of me and keep me away from my boys so that they could take my work and take my identity and, like break me so that they could replace me, not realising that in signing their soul to the devil, the price they would pay for selling their souls to the devil would be that by the time Satan came to collect their souls, everything they thought they were going to get out of it was going to be flipped and turned into what they're going to get out of it, other than prison sentences and having to pay me for what they did. They're going to be written into the fabric of time as being the underlings or the minions to the Antichrist movement, who were the bloodlines to the Third Reich, whose ancestors had been planning for centuries, from what I can gather, going back to the Anglo-Israelite situation from the Bible, but specifically Queen Elizabeth I, because at the time they killed her was just at the time they were getting ready to colonise America. So this is between the people in America and the people in Great Britain who collaborated to do what they had to do with the help of, you know, a couple of people in Europe, Romania, the Netherlands. And what it did was the legacy that they have now left based on selling their soul to the devil has made it that their names will forever be written in history once the world knows my story and it all gets out there as being the people that helped the cult of Odin, who are neo-Nazis, protect pedophiles, human traffickers, and the Third Reich, who in doing so have cost the lives of millions of people. They're responsible for the genocide in Gaza, for them trying to wipe out the bloodlines in Ukraine and Russia, the Slavic bloodlines, the kids that got stabbed in Southport, all the people that have been stabbed and killed, you know, by the, you know, the anti-Semitic this and the anti-Islamophobic this, the war in Iran, the COVID pandemic and all the people that died because of that, and because of the effects of the vaccines, with all the cancers and, you know, all these people dropping dead, just out of nowhere, healthy people just dropping dead, healthy people just getting cancer and heart attacks out of nowhere. The people in my life who thought that they were going to get something out of it, got something out of it all right, but it's not what they were expecting. And this is what I'm trying to figure out, because something my son and I did has turned their plan into dark matter. They become, it's like erasing their existence to become non-existent. And I'm trying to figure out what that term would be. A few years ago, my son had a dream. My boy that I'm talking about, my samurai warrior, who is at college at the RAF at the moment, which is why the military helicopter thing is quite poignant when I wrote it into The Night of the Black Sun. Cybersecurity as well. Like, you can't make this stuff up. Well, I mean, I did make it up, but I manifested it into real life. It's like the more they mess with me, the more powerful I become. I just have to write it or say it now, and then within hours it happens. And because Odin said I passed the test, because I didn't use my gift to manifest anything other than justice based on karma, when I could have used it to exact revenge and get vengeance and be nasty with it, and I could have done some real damage to these people. I used my gift the right way, and I'm teaching it to my boys as well. But many years ago, my boy had a dream. He said, I had a dream that we were in New York and a UFO flew over New York and Rocio was flying it. And it crashed. And then all these people put him on a throne in Central Park and were carrying him through the streets of New York with a crown on his head. And he said, all the people that put me on the throne and put the crown on my head and had raised me up, they were all Christians. And he said it's like they were celebrating me. He said, you and Gabriel and that were there, because he said we walked into a restaurant, and when we walked into a restaurant, all these people started clapping and cheering. And he said Chris and Martin were there. And I thought, oh, that's great. When I build my school, people are going to love what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. Bearing in mind at this time, I didn't believe in God. I was still trying to find out whether he existed or not. But now that dream makes perfect sense. Everything about it makes perfect sense. Even the part about Chris and Martin being there because they watch everything I do on the phone. They're responsible for the reason why we end up with my boy being held aloft by Christians in New York. Because, Donald Trump is from New York, Martin's from New York, I got married in New York, we were supposed to move to New York. And Trump's empire is getting torn down. So my son is like my carbon copy of me. And he doesn't even have to try. Whereas I've spent decades turning it into a physics, he just comes along and blah, and it's done. Because it's been part, like, as soon as I learn it, it's uploaded to my kids. And now I understand why my teacher said, you can't just marry anyone. You need a protector. You need someone who's going to step up and make sure that nobody gets their hands on you or you and your kids. Once Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Keir Starmer and the EU and Zelensky and that are all removed, I guarantee you whoever it is that's going to be having that baby in Russia who will produce the second coming, they'll get pregnant like boom, like that. And judging from the Bible, they could be an older couple as well. So then Russia can be left to do what they need to do in building the New Jerusalem, because then my mission is complete. I can then go to America and build my school. And I'm actually really looking forward to it, because after everything that I've just done, I can't see any reason why Americans wouldn't welcome me with open arms and say, yes, please come here. That's what my teacher said, that America would welcome me with open arms. They would be doing everything they could to get me there and want to be on board with everything that I'm doing, because they realise, being a Christian nation, the biblical importance, the supernatural importance of what it is they're going to be a part of. Yes, we're going to have to tear their history down and their timelines down to recorrect the imbalance from the pretty much the minute the Mayflower landed in America. And the thing is, when I woke up this morning and I turned YouTube on, the first thing I saw was this video about the dog giving away free kisses in Boston, and I thought, Boston? Because remember, I wanted to move to, after the whole New York thing, I thought I could go to Salem and build, like, Salem would be the perfect place to build what I'm building. But because of the connection that Massachusetts has to my ex-best friend and that, I don't want to risk bumping into him in the street, to be honest. So we thought, okay, South Dakota. But Boston, when I first went to America, that's where I landed. And where I stayed in Cape Cod, the woman I stayed with, she's the ancestor to the first person born in America from the Mayflower. And they had like a holiday home there, and she took me to where the Mayflower landed. And this is significant because after Queen Elizabeth died, Queen Elizabeth I died, that's when she died in 1603, I think, and it was in 1606, 1607, I believe, that British guy got on the boat on the Mayflower, and, the first footing and that, and then all hell broke loose in America. And then we had the War of Independence and, the slaughtering of all the natives. And remember, I am Mesoamerican and that. So the past has unravelled a whole pile of chain of events where I've had to go back to Alpha and Omega over and over and over and over and over again to unpick the knots in the fabric of time, to recorrect history so that the future can evolve without any glitches. by waking people up and making them see the truth of history and the lies that we were told, written in the fabric of time. By undoing the past, it clears the way for the future. And the only person that could rewrite history correctly is my bloodline, the time jumping bloodline. Because the Illuminati want you all to think that they're prophets. Nostradamus, ooh, and that Baba, what's her name, and ooh. How did they know? It's because it was all planned centuries in advance. That's why all the presidents and prime ministers and that are related to other powerful people in history, because the Illuminati, they keep everything within their bloodlines, because they can't risk exposure by trusting the wrong bloodlines. The mistake they made with Princess Diana, her bloodline was more powerful than King Charles. Her bloodline has more of a right to the throne than King Charles did. And when she figured out the whole Epstein thing and what they were planning to do with the Muslims, bearing in mind she was dating a Muslim, that's when they killed her. That's when Trump and the CIA and MI5 or MI6 and Tony Blair and that said we need to kill her because she's going to ruin everything. 9/11, the invasion of Iraq, the war in Iran, because, you know, they're desperately trying to start trouble with the Middle East so that they can take their land, take their oil, take their gold, all that sort of thing. And she figured it out. But to cover their tracks, they had to bring Charles and Andrew and Sarah and all that in on it, so that if shit hit the fan, the royal family would go down with them. But then that was all done by design as well, because once you get rid of the monarchy, then they can take the land, the money, the gold, the minerals, everything I said. But what was going to determine how the rapid rate of fall was which side King Charles chose to be on. He could be on the side of Moloch or gods, and he chose Moloch. So in him making his decision to stand by Ukraine and Israel, it has then sealed his fate, literally sealed it. And now he goes down with the rest of them who have been flung into the triangle, into space. I just keep thinking of Superman. When Terence Stamp and that get put into that triangle thing and flung, yeeted into space, and they're trapped. That. And he can't undo the decisions he's made now, because it's been sewn into the fabric of time. And once he made his decision, that's when it kicked the domino effect off. And everything started crashing down as a result. And I need to put this in the first sign, and I need to put it into unorthodox. I need to write all of this into my movies, and people are going to know that this is based on a true story. This is going to be based on real events. I watched her I listened to her on YouTube when that happened, and now it's in the movie. I actually witnessed that in real life. So that's what I said. The first sign is my version of Harry Potter, but it's real. Whereas Harry Potter's all fake and imagined, mine is actually real magic. And it's going to blow people's minds. So I'm still, just in talking, it's helped me unravel little bits and remember little bits. But there's got to be a name for it. There has to be some sort of name for what I've just done. Yes, the whole Archimedes bow thing, yes. reverse engineered portal, but there has to be I've done something with my son that God wrote about in the Bible, and I need to figure it out. Because I decipher the codes of the Bible as a scientist, and it helps me use the cipher to turn into language that I then pass on as a messenger for God. God being atom. The memories and thoughts that have been captured and stored in the fabric of time since time immemorial from the Big Bang. And the universe is expanding just like a combustion. Big Bang after Big Bang after Big Bang after Big Bang. There's universes that came before ours that are dying out, that are still expanding behind us, that's pushing our universe forward. Expansion can't happen without combustion. And what is pushing our universe forward is the combustion of the big bangs that came before, just like combustion engine and fuel injection on an engine. Boom, 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 boom. Like a domino effect, like dynamite. You know, when you take, like what they did with the Twin Towers, how they put the dynamite on the different levels and it boom, 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 like that. That's our universe. So there's things in our universe floating about that are made up from, well, everything in our universe is made up from things that exploded from the force of combustion from the last universe. And the last universe before that, and the last universe before that, and so on and so forth. We're just the most recent version, but what I can tell you is there is another universe already being created, which is what my space program needs to get to the bottom of. Well, not to get to the bottom of, but needs to get to, because I have permission to do it. I'm allowed to do it, unlike Elon Musk, whose brain can't think beyond, I need to colonise Mars, whereas mine's like, I'm a navigator, let's see what's out there. And I have permission to do it. There's another universe already being created after this one, because this one is slowly dying because we're destroying it because of Elon Musk and NASA and CERN and all of that. And, you know, we have the gas giants. There's a reason why they're gas giants. They never used to be gas. The fact that they are now gas, they used to be physical, but the fact they're gas now means they're dying out. You know how you see stars exploding and all the little explosions into space? That's everything starting to combust. So we need to figure this out and get to the new universe being created. And that's where your quote-unquote aliens are. And they're waiting for us to catch up to them. But we're so busy doing bad things to children and animals and our planet and thinking, oh, let's colonise Mars. Let's kill off everyone on Earth and colonise Mars like in Wally. Sort of thing. We're so busy doing all that bullshit and fighting wars and trying to kill off our planet because a handful of people are just greedy, dumb and stupid and evil, and hurting children and harvesting organs like, you know, blood-sucking vampires and all that sort of thing. We're so dumb and evil. They're getting further and further and further away from us. And they desperately want us to catch up to them because we're the last ones here. But while everyone's dicking about with SpaceX and turning Elon Musk into a false idol, however, they are mostly paid to do it or brainwashed to do it, here I am with my little space program that knows exactly how to do it so that we can, very affordably I might add, navigate the stars to get to the other side, to traverse those wormholes and join the new universe that's been created. And then join our brethren, where you will have access to your ancestors and stuff. So everyone who ever died that you've loved and lost will be on the other side, waiting. Because where there is death, there is life. And in the birth of a new universe, all that has died is created as new life, the resurrection of life. But because nobody understands that but me, they're spending billions on SpaceX, which is it's fraudulent, it's a scam. They then try and spend all their time and energy stopping me and my boys, who the child that I'm to have with my protector, with my future husband, is going to be the child that works alongside the second coming to take us off this planet to traverse the new universe, to traverse the universe. Because the child that I'm supposed to have, the second coming, God said in the Bible that He governs. He runs the new government in the new world. Meaning he governs the New Jerusalem. He governs the Holy Land. He governs the new world. Kind of like von der Leyen for the EU, but God sent, not hell sent. Works for God, not against God. And one of the big things that they're going to do, that He's going to do, is work on, understanding space. Work with some sort of space program. And because my kid's my daughter, and I'm going to have my own space program, she's going to work alongside him somehow, so that the two of them together help us take the next generations after you and I are long gone, because it's going to take a couple of generations for us to be able to do it, but we will do it based on my space program. And they're going to work together and help future generations see what's out there safely, and in future generations' time get us through those wormholes and into the new universe. I can only take them so far, but I do know that in order to get through the wormholes, you have to think them open, because wormholes are based completely on, they open and close based on the frequency of consciousness connecting to them. And while we're killing babies and destroying the planet and drinking blood and sacrificing people and committing sex acts and being pedophiles and causing wars and wiping people out with pandemics and genocides and that, just so that you can stroke your ego and pretend that you're a trillionaire when you're not, there's no way on earth anyone other than like my bloodline would be able to open and close the wormholes through thought. But because my space program is tied up to my gaming chair, if you understood what I had created with my gaming chair, it's the start of it. And then my kid, or kids if my sons get involved as well, and whoever the second coming is going to be, the new Messiah, they all work together somehow to take what I've created and designed and invented to the next level. And then their offspring do the same thing. And then it's like we become the fuel injection, combustion that pushes humanity forward in the direction it's supposed to go. And when we get to the point where the bubble pops of, how I said there's two universes, one, they're both inside each other. When it's like a zygote, when the sperm hits the egg and the cells start splitting, the two universes are like that. Eventually, we will pop it and it will become one living, conscious creation that births us into the new universe that's already been created. But because we live in a world of maths and greed and all of that, that's what's stopping us from being allowed to see what's on the other side. But because I'm me and I figured it out, I get to start what my kids and grandkids and great grandkids and all of that finish with the help of the new Messiah. But in order to do that, we have to get rid of the cult of Odin and, like Trump and EU and that first. So, yeah, so my son and I forged some sort of key that unlocked some sort of hidden access to the universe that allowed us to trap the bad guy so that they could be flung into dark matter and, what did I say? Because it's liminal space, I said they'd be like pinballs and they'd bing, 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 bing. And every time they hit the pinball, it breaks them down and shatters them up like shells being smashed on a rock, where eventually they would turn into space dust. So looking at that from a 3D reality perspective, their downfall will be such that everything they did, everything they created, everything they wrote into history would be torn down and rewritten so that they become, in future generations, non-existent. Nobody will know the Trump name. Nobody will know the von der Leyen name. Nobody will know the Starmer name. It'll all get torn down. The view that they wanted you to have of them and their bloodlines will be seen in such a way that instead of being admired and respected, and that they would be hated, disregarded, abandoned, where eventually they will be forgotten in the annals of time. Because of Archimedes' bow. That's what I call it, but I need to find another name for it. It's like only my son and I could have done it. Like Sam and Frodo. Precious, my precious. So it's Trump Gollum. Mine. America's mine. The world is mine. It's my precious. Obsessed with gold. So Trump would be a fat Gollum. And me, and I'm Frodo, and Thomas was Sam, and we threw the ring inside Mount Doom. Well, Palantir's symbol is the Eye of Sauron. Art imitating life, imitating art. So I am absolutely starving now. I'm going to go and stuff my face. But yeah, to be continued. Now this is why they needed to separate me from my boys, because you have to understand Chris knew all of this, because he was supposed to be the original protector, and then Martin knew all of this because he was supposed to be the protector. When Chris ended our marriage, like when I ended our marriage because of what Chris said and did, Martin was given the opportunity to take over, but he was like a coyote, a trickster, and how I dealt with all of him was going to determine my fate. And I think I dealt with it perfectly, other than I should never have married him. There has to be a reason why I married him, though, especially in New York. But anyway, so they knew about the role of the protector, and so did my students, and how important my bloodline was. And they did it anyway. They betrayed God and their ancestors anyway. Just for a couple of years, I've been able to lord it thinking, yeah, we got it. And it's like, yeah, did you really? Because now when people hear your name, they're going to go, hang on a minute. Didn't you take Trump's side to kill off people in the COVID and protect people in the Epstein file and cause genocides in Ukraine and Palestine and like that Nikki, that Martin, that Christopher Black, that Rhea Brown, that Beth Noonan Bothright, that Michelle Grant, that one. So because of you, you're the reason why I lost my job, why I lost my farm, why I lost everything, why I lost my SNAP benefits, why I lost my EBT card, why I lost my Medicaid. You're the reason why my kid got killed in Iran. You're the reason why my kid got killed in Ukraine. That Michelle Grant, that Rhea Brown. So that's Santaro. And because remember, she was saying stuff in readings knowing that was the plan. She wasn't predicting things. She was telling you in plain sight what the plan was. Because she thought because I was watching her, I was taking on board everything she was saying and listening to her advice. When I was studying her to try and figure out what the role she was playing and what was happening in my life. Then when I realised she was in an online relationship with Chris, that's when everything started. When I figured it out and I put that video out about, people rising up and stuff, it was like a day or two later, he put the cocaine in my pizza. I said she gave him the order to put the hit out on me because I had started figuring it all out. She wasn't predicting anything. She was telling you what the plan was. So she was a fraud. And because then when I started calling her out, she had to take her channels down. Because she was a fraud. Because that's what the Illuminati do. They tell you the plan years in advance, sometimes centuries in advance. They tell you the plan. So that you go, oh my God, how did they know? They're psychic, they're prophets. No. They're magicians. It's all an illusion. It's a sleight of hand. We're telling you this is what's going to happen. So in the future, when it happens, you'll think we predicted it and that we're supernatural beings, but it's not. It's all a lie. Just like that Baron Trump book. Donald Trump, from the minute he was born, knew he had to have a kid with a certain woman that he was going to have to call Baron Trump in order to make the book come true. Elon's parents knew that they had to have a kid that they were going to call Elon and raise him on sci-fi stuff to make him think that he has to colonize Mars. It's all done by design. They know what they're doing with their kids before they have them from centuries ago. And the morons in my life jumped on board that ship, not realising it was the Titanic. While I rowed away. Bye. Bye. Row, row, row your boat. Because they're idiots, because people think they know the occult. And they really don't. Nobody has a damn clue. But, now they've learned the hard way, eh? I just need to figure out the name specifically of what it was. Theory of relativity is the first thing that comes to mind, so I need to take that ball and run with it. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So we've seen the action, we've seen the equal action, now we've seen the opposite reaction. I need to run with that ball and take it from there. I'll figure it out eventually. So I'm going to go and stuff my face now. If I could be having a big fry up, I would be. Actually, I could be having a big fry up because I took some bacon out. Oh, bacon and hash browns. Right, that's it. I'm off to have bacon and hash browns. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite. Mwah.